Hey, what's going on, guys? Rago here from Matt Kite. So I'm just wrapping up our series on the boards where we're breaking down all the differences. So 2 weeks ago we did small boards versus large boards, and then last week we did the flat boards versus the rocker boards, and this week we're going to get into construction materials. So I'm here with my buddy Angel from U-Kite, and while I usually ride like wood boards and other various materials, Angel here actually rides the North Team Series with the Tech Stream with a bit of carbon in there. Hey, could you tell us why you choose that board, Angel?
Yeah, sure, Ryan. I like to freestyle, so I decided to get a board that could have a lot of pop. This board is amazing in chop conditions. It's great for flat water. Nevertheless, you can ride it in almost any condition if you are an intermediate or advanced rider. If you are looking for a board that has a great pop and great landings, I think that the Team Series from North Boarding is a great option.
Yeah, right on. So point being here is there's a lot of different boards and a lot of different options out there, and there's no real wrong choices, but there's definitely trade-offs for what you choose, and it just comes down to figuring out what works for you and your personalized riding style. So we're going to get into all those little nuances in this video, so let's get to it. So like I said, the point of this series was just to set the frame for a head-to-head comparisons, and we'll be touching on a lot of these points when we break down the boards, but it's really important to remember that every board is different, and there's actually a lot of little things that go into every board that really makes it unique in its own way. So while we'll be touching on these points, and they do apply to all the boards, this is not the end-all be-all. This is just the basic concepts that will be considered. So let's start with the wood and fiberglass boards. These boards tend to be characterized by being more durable, heavier, and damp. And all I mean by damp is they absorb the chop much better than their carbon counterparts. And what this means is when you're going out with a wood fiberglass board, you can expect that board to basically feel a lot better when you're riding in locations with choppier water. So something else to consider with the wood and fiberglass boards is the response and feel. Now obviously this is going to vary from brand to brand and model to model, but the basics here with the wood boards is you're going to get a gradual response and a more predictable feel. While with carbon you get a more immediate response and an aggressive feel. Regarding the flex and stiffness, we talked a little last week how the stiffer the board, the more pop you're going to get, and now with the wood and fiberglass boards, a stiffer board will require a thicker core and more glass, so naturally the stiffer these boards get, the heavier they get, just with the addition of all these materials. So for the reasons that I've just covered just now, more often than not, riders who are looking for a more durable board, whether you're just harder on your gear, or maybe you prefer to ride boots, riders like that tend to gravitate towards the wood boards. And a good example of a brand that makes fantastic wood boards would be the entire Slingshot lineup. So it's kind of funny, a little while ago I was going through our YouTube channel and I stumbled across this old video called Ride Goals. And it's something that I filmed right when I started here, and the idea was, being that I was new to the shop, I was going to get out and test all the gear and try everything, and I had just discovered the Slingshot boards, I believe. It's just kind of fun to reflect and look back and see that video and how little I knew back in 2015 and how much I've learned just from working with this crew of guys and the entire team here at Matt Kite. So what about carbon boards? Where do they stack up? Well, again, it depends and it varies, right? So every brand has implemented carbon in different ways, whether it's a full carbon board, sometimes there's carbon layers, or they weave the carbon in somehow, maybe even carbon rods. That might be snowboards. I'm not sure about the kite boards. But point being is people implement carbon in a number of different ways, and that's going to really affect the performance of the board. But the most important thing to remember when considering a carbon board is it's going to be lighter, stiffer, it's going to pop better, but it won't have the same dampness that you're going to get from a wood board. So again, we kind of talked about this last week with the stiffness of boards, but with the carbon boards, what you are going to get is a board that you're going to feel a lot more of everything, so they just don't really absorb the chop that well, and depending on what dampening materials they put into the build, so the board might get a bit heavier, and it just depends. Every board is different, but point being, with these boards, you can expect a lighter feel, more pop, and like I said, an immediate and aggressive response. So really making them incredibly high performers. So much like stiff boards, the carbon boards really are the best you can get as far as performance, but with everything there's trade-offs to consider. So a carbon board might not be right for everybody. Typically, riders who gravitate towards the carbon boards tend to ride foot straps. They want the lightest board out there, whether that's for travel or just a light feel on their feet when they're on the water. And it's important to remember that one of the big trade-offs for opting for the performance of a carbon board is it's not going to be as durable as a booted board. So, you know, for riders out there who are looking to boot up a carbon board, just make sure that the board that you're thinking of picking up is built to take the force from riding boots. So what you don't want to end up with a carbon board that's not meant for boots. You boot it up, you land real hard, catch an edge, and you tear your inserts, or maybe you break the board in half, and that can happen. So just make sure when you're looking at carbon boards that it's meant for the impact of boots. You know, a good example of one of my favorite carbon boards would probably be the North Hemi Techstream, and you know, just incredibly light feel, really fun, really playful. Definitely a board to consider if you're looking to get a carbon board. But you can't boot that board up. It is made specifically for foot straps, and while I personally do gravitate towards riding boots, it's definitely fun to get out there and just play around on a light board like that and just experience the freedom and the flexibility that you get when you're wearing foot straps. You know, it's a lot easier to go for grabs and just kind of change up your style and have a more unique feel on the water. So what are the benefits of going with a wood board over a carbon board? Well, if you're hard on your gear or you ride boots, or maybe you just want a more laid back, smooth feel on the water that's easier on the knees, these really are going to be the ticket. You know, and if you're going for performance, then check out the carbon boards. While they're not as durable as their wood counterparts, they are going to have more pop, have a lighter feel, and simply perform. Now, it is important, and I've said this a few times, that there are a lot of variables to consider when choosing a board. You know, from the rocker line to the concave, the shape, the construction, and there's really just a lot of weird little things that every brand brings to the table, whether it's, you know, maybe the tip and the tails will be a bit more flexible than the center, or the kind of rail the board has, or even just the shape of the bottom. So when it comes to choosing between a carbon board or a wood board, you know, use this video as a guideline, but also realize that there are a lot of other variables to consider, and there's no real wrong choice here. You know, with a lot of the topics that I cover, it just comes down to what benefits appeal to you and what kind of ride you're looking to get. So when considering boards, you can reference this video, but also realize there's a lot of other variables to consider. And you can always give us a call. We can always break down the differences for each board that you're looking at. You know, just hit us up and let us know. So pretty quick here, we're going to start comparing boards head to head and getting into all the nitty-gritty details that actually separates the boards and makes them different beyond just these basics that we've covered in this video. I know we've gotten a lot of great requests for all kinds of comparisons, from boards to kites. And you know, I'm making a point to keep a list and get out on that gear and put some time in on it. And I really just want to make sure that I'm doing my due diligence and really putting the time in on the gear before I talk about it. I could just look at the specs and you know, talk about this gear with you guys, but I think it's a lot more fun if I've actually put my time in and have some original thought on these products. So, you know, if I haven't gotten to any of your requests yet, don't worry, I've got it on a list, and as soon as I get a chance, I will definitely put the time in and make a video for you as soon as possible. And hey, as always, this series, it's an open forum and about getting a conversation going. So the last couple of weeks, we've been running a poll, you know, just regarding what gear you're using. So this week, you know, let us know in the comments, are you using a wood board? Are you using a carbon board? Are you using something else? So just let us know in the comments what you're using and help out those people who are watching this video for research. You know, like I always say, it's not just about what I have to say, but about what you have to say as well. So leave some feedback for those who are doing the research. Until next time, this has been Rygo, and I'll see you next Wednesday.